And yes, we are live, just clicking the OK button. And there you go. And yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in our amazing world. Thank you for joining us for a wonderful shining the light on our community conversation where we get to spotlight not just members of the Sacred You community, but members of the world community. And I'm really honored today to have the beautiful and the amazing Jessika Sanatori with us to talk about how to talk about synchronicity and how we can use it in our leadership things. So thank you, the Leadership Edge Synchronicity. Really excited. Thank you so much, Jessika, for joining us today. So
Thank you. I'm so
I'm
delighted to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really excited to have you here. So let me just first introduce you so everyone who's listening live or watching the replay gets to know a little bit about you. So you're an entrepreneur. Jessika is an entrepreneur, an educator, a poet, and an artist. And I got a little bit of thing that Jessika at the moment is away writing. So I definitely want to know more about that one too. Jessika is the creator of A Creative Force and creativity consulting firm to expand the use of creative thinking and learning. Oh my God, and there's more. You've lived and worked all over the world, and there's so much more. But Jessika, like I said, I want to know about you from you. So tell us how Jessika got to where you are now. Tell us a little bit about your story, your journey.
Certainly. Yeah. So I grew up in it's called the Palouse region of the Northwest United States. Beautiful place, rolling hills. Um, and I started kind of, wheat has been always, and crops have always been kind of a metaphor for me to this is where I started growing and was on a wheat farm.
Mhm.
And I knew that I had a vision that would be away from farming. Family members have taken over the farm. And so I knew that I wanted to explore different facets away. And I was a world traveler. And so I thought, motion pictures have always been a fabulous thing for me. And so I wanted to be the next Edith Head. And Edith had won 11 Academy Awards for costume design. And that's what my undergraduate degree was in, is
Sure.
costume. And
Question.
so
Okay.
that was my first big block, was apparel design. So I did costume for theater, film. I worked for companies such as Rafi Skiwear, Pendleton Woolen Mills, things like that. And so that got the creative part of me rolling. And
Okay.
then what I started seeing coming up in my vision is high tech. And that was going to be the
Uh,
next thing. And luckily, I was in a place where apparel factories were bringing together CAD CAM systems. And so I was trained on computers. That's how I first started. And then I thought, I'm going to keep going with high tech. And then I had a big switch and I decided I'm going to get my MBA because that's the thing I need for my next part. I call it my soul's education. What is
yes.
the question I ask myself is what is needed next on my soul's education? So the next thing was I need to get my MBA because that's the way I'm going to surpass the glass ceiling. And so I did that and I decided, I really need to embrace entrepreneurship. I need to go from the high tech where I was doing archives and records management work and do it on my own. And so I had several clients in the Seattle area. From there, the next part was I had the opportunity to get my doctorate degree at
Yes.
Seattle. And this was a program, how to be a change agent. So to not only the first year was personal change. So how do we change ourselves? Next year was how do we influence change in our companies? And the third year was how do we influence change in the world?
Yes.
So that was right along my alley. Then I went into embraced academic work. I taught overseas in Abu Dhabi, in Russia, in South Korea, and in Madagascar. And the reason I did that is, we can look at books and look at business, different kinds of business um, experiences. But if we go to the country, we get so much more than just
Mm,
what we can read. And, it's on so many more levels, personal, interpersonal, as well as corporate, as well as political. And then from there, I decided to teach. So keep on teaching. And then that morphed into film work. And I've
okay.
always, that that went back to the Edith Head. And so this big arc
Mm,
was starting to,
it's
it
come
was a,
back again.
yeah. And so I had a film production company that I had 6 award-winning films, and I did my love is in direction, although I have done writing and production.
Mhm.
And then my last part of my life right now is, or at least to this point, my soul's education led me to, you have so many experiences, it's time that you need to write these down, bring them
Yeah.
out into public. Look at your experience, but look at your wisdom. Look at the wisdom in your life. And, the synchronicity, the leadership edge, it's a 25th anniversary book, because 25 years ago it was Synchronicity, the entrepreneur's edge. And I
Okay.
wanted to open it up to, because some people do not see themselves as entrepreneurs, but they see themselves as leaders. And I wanted to open that up too. So that's where you've got me on my journey right now.
Okay. So, and we're here to talk about synchronicity
Yeah,
and how everything in life, if we're open on a journey on how we can tune into those synchronicities. So thank you. And you've lived such a wonderful life. Thank you, and still are. And thank you for sharing that, because it is very inspirational to follow those synchronicities.
absolutely.
So what I'd like to ask you, Jessika, how first of all, a lot of people, you talk about synchronicities and coincidences. For you, what's the difference between a mere coincidence and a meaningful synchronistic event?
So I see coincidence more as a starting point. So
Okay.
these are events that um, are further than the probability of chance. They're seen as an intersection of time and space. But synchronicity, I take it a step further in that we need to make meaning. These coincidences can happen around us all the time, but the meaning comes from, what am I intending, or what do I want in my life? This vast inner landscape we have, and the other landscape of goals and visions. And so the meaning comes from that. So I see synchronicity as the meaning part of this. It's more than just coincidence.
Yeah, okay. And what about any examples that you would like to share, especially of of events that you've experienced synchronicity and things that have really affected your life? You've done a wonderful journey and gone, and that, like doing that circle or the arc and getting back into film and everything else. But how has synchronicity shaped your life?
I think it has led me to situations that I didn't think I was either worthy of or that I had the capacity to do. I met a certain person at a certain juncture. For example, I was looking for a publisher of my first book and couldn't find a person. And then I happened to go to this conference, sit next to a person that said, "Oh yeah, I've published with this company. Why don't you do this?"
Right.
And so within 2 weeks, I had a publishing contract, and that was without an agent or
Mhm.
anything. It just
Mhm.
fell into place like that.
Mhm.
So a lot of things that happen like that. Meeting people. Another example is I was doing a film. It was a Western, very complex because Westerns have animals and they have, a lot of different things, guns, things like that, that are much more complex, makes the film much more complex. And I was looking for a director of photography, and I was just beside myself. It was getting really close to production time.
Yeah.
And I happened to go this meeting, and there was a woman there. It was at Panavision, so huge corporation, huge banquet. And I ran into this woman, started talking to her, and I said, I'm really in need of this, of a director of photography. And she goes, oh, you should talk to my boyfriend, right? And here he had 40 years of Hollywood experience. And he said, yes, I will do it. And not only the part where this is my boyfriend, let me introduce you.
Uh-huh.
It was the part of, we met and he goes, well, I'm not sure. And then he goes, well, I'm going to work with you, and it's because you don't ask stupid questions. You know what you want, and I believe in your skill and your vision. And so this multi-award um, cinematographer said yes to my film, and that
Wow.
was very unusual. Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? Congratulations on
Thank
that
you.
too.
Thank
And have you
you.
always been open to synchronicity in your whole life and coincidence? Have you always been the type of person that's followed those callings, those touchings?
I have been, and I think even, and this is one of my interviews was with a woman who made shoes, and she was the person who said, I follow my synchronicities even if they turn out what I think to be wrong, a wrong decision. But
Yes.
she's, in the short term it is wrong, in the long term it's always right.
Yeah.
And I
Because you
always
learn
keep
so
that
much.
in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing when you do that, isn't it? When you follow those things, and you may think that it was the wrong decision, but later on down the track you realize that it was right, and you've learned so much from it. So
Right.
thank
And
you.
you learn so much about yourself because there
Yes.
is that element of discernment of, is this really what I want to do? Is this really my next path, sort of thing? So the element of discernment comes in as well. As I get older, that's becoming more and more important.
Yes. So true. And how do you see like synchronicity aiding or helping us in our personal development? How do you see that being part of it?
I think one of the biggest things is learning how to trust,
Yeah.
and learning to trust that the universe, God, the elements we cannot see will be there for us. And they always will be, although it's not on our timeline usually. Most of the
Yes.
time it isn't. But if we trust that this will happen or something better will happen, that's even more than we thought we could be or the situation could be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I'd just like to take a moment just to honor you, to really, really honor you for bringing your wisdom to Sacred You in the world, and also, to sharing how when we're able to trust ourselves, trust the life's journey and everything that brings it, that is part of it, then amazing things can happen, like you're sharing, and you never know who you're going to be talking to. You never
That's
know who you're going to be sitting with. And another couple of questions that I'd like to ask you, Jessika, because we're talking about leadership and things like that, and synchronicity helps with the leadership edge. How what role can synchronicity play in leadership, and how can we, as leaders, harness the power of synchronicity?
Again, I think it comes to trust. I think
Okay,
it's
trust. Yeah.
wanting and getting really clear on your intention of what do I like when you're creating your business. What do you want to have happen? I was the executive director for a creativity foundation, and there were certain people that I needed a skill set that I didn't have. And so I would meditate on these people that I had in front of me of that I wanted to attract to me. And they did. And it wasn't right away. It wasn't, and sometimes it had to go through 2 or 3 people to find that person. But that changed my life of, oh, I can influence in some ways my path. It isn't all up random, that there are ways that you can really, if you are really honed in and are able to give up the outcome, but still embrace the outcome. It's kind of a paradox here.
Yeah.
But you can still go, no, I'm still going to go this path, even though it doesn't sound like things are falling into place just yet.
Absolutely, thank you. And it's just trusting, as you said, it's coming back to trust, whether it's leadership in our life or whether it's leadership in a leadership role, with other people and stuff. It's just really, really trusting. So thank you for sharing that. We're moving into like with technology. You and I are able to talk together, even though we're on completely opposite sides of the world and everything else. And now with AI, and there is so much available, and people talk about overwhelm because we're doing so much. We're trying to fit. We're trying to be human doings instead of human beings and fit everything else into our lives. But has that affected the ability to notice and appreciate synchronistic events, synchronicities? Do you think that AI and technology has taken that ability away?
I don't think it has to.
Mm-hmm.
I believe one of the key things that I've learned in the past few years is I have to take a day off, a true day off. And it's really hard for people who have kids or life or obligations to do that. I happen to be a place where I can do that because I have to quiet my brain down.
Yeah.
And because if it's busy, busy, busy here, these synchronicities, I tend not to notice them as much. Or
Yes.
I lose my intention, I lose my edge that way. But if I'm, even if you can't do a whole day, for me, it's a whole day, a couple hours that you just rest. I mean, there's things about sleep. Sleep is important, but so is rest. And it just
Yes.
gives your mind
Is
a
it?
way to just reboot. And yeah, because I know
Yes.
when my mind is not settled, I'll be scrolling for hours because it feeds that. But if I can put the phone away and just, calm, be walking somewhere, be in nature, just some way that you can, not just your brain, but your whole mind, which is your whole body, yeah, can calm down
Yeah.
and remember it's rhythm.
Rest, and give your brain a rest, as I call it, a mind rest and things,
Yeah.
and get tuned back into nature. Thank you for sharing that. Is there any other practices or habits that you follow or that you can suggest to people who are listening that we can, really get into to develop to become more in tune with synchronicity events? I mean, we all need to take that time out in nature, but is there anything else that you do recommend?
One of the most critical things I recommend is when you get an idea, don't let it pass. Write it
Yeah.
down and do something within the next 24 hours to act on it, whether it's making a phone call, ordering something that you need to do online, create a curriculum, just something to do that 24 hours is just golden. And one thing I used to do when I was in school is, if we had an assignment given, I would take the next 15 minutes and just write, how am I going to do? What ideas do I have? And that will it just creates a big flow. It primes the pump.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Such
Thank, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. How many times in our life have we had that thought or that idea that keeps coming up, but we ignore it, and only later on down the track, it's like, why did I ever ignore that? This was something that I was being told, an event or something like that. So thank you for sharing it, to write it down and to act on it within 24 hours. And that would also then strengthen the ability to be in tune with those events. So thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else, Jessika, that you would like to share about how we can really use, or how we can tune in to synchronicity to help us become better leaders in our own lives?
Something I want to mention, you made note of it, is if you have a situation that you didn't act on, is you just need to lose the regret around it, because
Yes.
that's negativity. And then you may get into a mindset of, oh, I wish I would have, oh, I'll never be good. But you got to just let that stuff go, and I always ask for a second chance. I always ask, can I have a second chance on this? I blew, or I didn't take advantage of that first one. Can I get a second chance?
So you have another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also it's to your point about leadership, seeing yourself as a leader, I think, is critical. Some people have notions about leadership. Oh, if I have to be a leader, then I have to be arrogant, or I have to do this or this. And you don't have to be. Leadership is very vast, and we count on people to be effective and authentic in their own journey, and to inspire leaders, and to learn how to be a leader, you need to be a good follower and learn from leaders too.
You definitely do. You definitely do, because you never know, again, who's out there that is very inspirational, like you. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing that. Now, you are writing, you're away in a writing cabin to do some writing. So tell us a little bit about your writing and your book that's coming out very soon.
Sure. So one of the books, there's a couple in the hopper. One is with Crystal Hill Publishing. It's a book, Beyond Coincidence, and it's a multi-authored book, and it'll be released very soon. And so I'm writing a chapter about synchronicity and how it occurs when you travel, the people you meet along when you travel, or people who, my life has been saved by being in a synchronistic place. I also have this book coming up, Synchronicity, the Leadership Edge. And so that's my book. It's the 25 years ago, I interviewed entrepreneurs. I'll bring in some of those, but it's a whole new group of people talking about leadership and how their journey to being a leader had synchronistic experiences along that way. And then I've got another poetry book, so that's coming up too. So yeah, it's a good life.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I am going to put you on the spot because we haven't talked about this before, but do you have any of your poetry there? Would you like to read any of your poetry whilst we're live?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I would love to. I'm just trying to think where I have a piece of poetry that I can
I know we didn't talk
read.
about that before, because I just thought about it. It'd been a lovely way to finish.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I have one I really like about Isaac Newton.
Uh-huh.
And it's called Roy G. Biv, and Roy G. Biv is a mnemonic for the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, G, and then Biv. So I don't have that right in front of me, but it is talking about his synchronicities of having this prism in front of the window and the rainbow spilling on the floor. And what was he thinking of when he had actually had a bodkin, which is a piece of metal like a needle, and he put it in his eye because he was trying to do experiments about color. And so
Right.
all I could think of was how much that must have hurt, to have that. And then he was a person who was seeking God all the time. And so he had 39 Bibles. And what was he looking for? What did he find? And how can I take his influence into my own life? So, yeah. But I can send you poems. I just don't have them right in front of me right now.
That's okay. And also, if you have any links to your poems, to your poetry,
Okay.
then we will
Sure.
share that for everyone who is watching the live or the replay. Do stick
Okay.
around for those who are watching the live, because we will be putting all of Jessica's links in the comments as soon as we can, as soon as we finish.
Very good.
So, Jessica, before we end, is there anything else that you would
So
like to share? Is there any other
I
question?
do personal coaching. My company's called Creative Force. I believe that people are creative forces, and we just sometimes don't know how to harness it to improve our lives. And synchronicity is definitely one key part of my coaching.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it would be. Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And thank you for joining us. I do hope that you come back sometime soon. And like, we are honoured to have you on our panels. Hopefully we'll see you on one of our
wonderful.
panel discussions very, very soon, because your
Absolutely.
contribution to that is really wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much.
We
It's
really do
a
appreciate.
lovely opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, whenever I know that Jessica's on a panel, it's like this is going to be a good conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much for joining us. And like I said, for everyone who is watching, do hang around. We will be putting all of Jessica's links under the comments, and do connect with her. So thank you, Jessica.
Oh, thank you, Sophia. It's been wonderful.
No
Thanks for all
problem.
you do.